So as folks are coming into this space, I'd like to get started and by welcoming you all and really taking a moment to settle in and to sort of reflect on the fact that we are here during Pride Month, as well as during Indigenous Peoples History Month, to have the understanding and have an opportunity to talk about inclusion during this period is really an honor and a privilege, and really excited to be able to do that with you today. The conversation that we'll have is really about how one can navigate their career path in an authentic way within the insurance industry, the kinds of opportunities that are available to you, the resources and supports, as well as the kind of work that the industry needs to continue to do to evolve and grow to meet the needs of our workforce, but also just to enable people to feel that they belong and that they can contribute in really meaningful ways as who they are to the future of our industry. Before hopping into the session, I'd also like to acknowledge that we are gathered today well in a virtual form. I am joining to you from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Ashaninabek, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I also invite you to take a moment to acknowledge and to celebrate the land in which you are gathered here today, and also to reflect on the nations that came and have used and stewarded this land over thousands of years. Together, we move forward in a spirit of truth, reconciliation, and commitment to one another, to really gather in this space and honor what is, I think, a really important conversation, and really looking forward to having it with you today. I am joined by an esteemed panel, and I will take a moment to enable them to and empower them to introduce themselves in just a moment. For those who may not know who I am, my name is Trevor Buttram. I am the Executive Director of the Canadian Association of Career Educators and Employers, or CACE for short, which is focused on the post-secondary to career transition, and is Canada's leading authority in this space in terms of being able to support both career educators and employers in delivering exemplary service and recruit in an ethical and meaningful way to connect with the talent they need to be able to fulfill the needs of the labor market. And before joining the KC space, I had the opportunity as well to be a part of the insurance industry and to witness it in action as a team member at the Insurance Institute of Canada, and really pleased to be welcoming you here to this event and to be engaging in the conversation. I'd like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves by sharing a little bit about their current role, the company that they work for, highlights of their insurance career journey to date, and one thing that they'd like to ensure that we're all taking away today. So Angie, I'll start with you.
All right, thanks, Trevor. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Angie Singh. My pronouns are she, her. My current role is Inclusion and Organizational Development Manager at Definity. And Definity includes brands like Economical, Sonnet, Family, and Petline Insurance. So my general career journey began in the marketing industry, where I worked for 11 years as part of HR, touching everything from recruitment to program management to HR advisory work. But as it relates to insurance, specifically, that journey began in 2018 when I joined Economical as a leader in talent acquisition. And then in 2020, as a company, we formed an anti-racism employee group for which I was the co-chair. And it was through that experience that my passion for all things inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility came about. And that's what led me down to my career path today. So my hope for the session is that what resonates with especially the new career entrants in the audience today is just the understanding that insurance is this destination for diverse talent, and there truly are a variety of career paths within the industry. Oh, you're on mute, Trevor.
Sorry, thank you. As we're having this conversation in 2022, you would think that technology and all of us would be well acquainted, but from time to time, just to make everybody comfortable, I was on mute. And thanks so much for taking that space, Angie, to introduce yourself and share a little bit of your journey. Eric, I'd like to invite you to do the same.
Hi there. My name's Eric Johnson. I'm based in London in the UK right now, but I'm originally from Calgary in Canada. I had a unique introduction to insurance. So I started my professional career as a professional ballet dancer and then suffered a career-ending injury relatively young and went to university I was one of the few people who chose to study insurance and risk management at the University of Calgary. And then after a few years decided that I'd like to move outside of Canada. So I came to the UK and studied, where I've been now here for 17 years. And my current title is I'm the incoming active underwriter of MIC Syndicate. So we're a Lloyd's of London syndicate. And I guess a pearl of wisdom would be oftentimes it's the voices inside your head that stop you from doing things more than what happens outside. So sort of challenge yourself to be braver.
Thanks so much, Eric. Renee, welcome.
Hi everyone. Trevor, I almost followed your suit of forgetting of muting myself. So you are not alone in this. So my name is Renee Wang. My Chinese name is Xiaobo. So for those who are curious, and you can actually search it, how to spell it on LinkedIn. So I am currently a senior client manager at WTW. I am a client-facing broker. That means that I do a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm property and casualty focused, but do touch quite a bit of other insurance lines as well. I started my career actually in different roles, and I've actually held different roles in the insurance world. I started as an actuarial recruiter. That really gave me a broad perspective of what actuaries do in this industry and what type of roles that can give me career path and give a bit of a horizon of what I will be looking at. And I was also a MGU, that's a managing general underwriter for the health and benefit. And again, that's client facing. I moved back to Canada from China back in 2012. And that's when actually I took a bit of a gap year in my career. Learned French here in Montreal, did a project management certificate, and did a bit of freelancing on economical reports. And a few years later, I find myself climbing back to the corporate world. And that's how I started with my PNC broker journey. And I joined WTW last year, and prior to that, I was with another global broker firm, again in Montreal. So I think it's great that I thank you for participating in this conversation, and I look forward to hearing your feedback as well in the chat. And I think IDEA is a great strategy. It's an important topic that we talk on, and I want to emphasize the importance that I realize this is a journey that takes every one of us. It's not just a one-way street. It's not a one-directional directive by one committee or the management. So I'm pretty sure that we will have a bit of an elaboration on that in this conversation and how we can all contribute to this.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Renee. And last but certainly not least, Simon.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Trevor. So yeah, my name is Simon Renaulty. I'm currently the district sales manager and branch manager for Federated. I look after Northern Alberta. Highlights of my career. Well, I've been in insurance insurance for over 30 years. I consider myself an insurance career professional. Much like Eric, I decided to go to school first for insurance. So I'm a proud graduate of the MacEwan University Risk Management Insurance Program. I've had the opportunity to work in underwriting, claims, sales, and senior management roles over my career, while I was also working in key centers like Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Toronto. I'm also past president of the Insurance Institute of Northern Alberta, a CIP course instructor, hold the Chartered Insurance Professional designation, and one item I'm really proud of, I'm a member of the Siksika Nation in Alberta. One of the things I hope that you take away from this in terms of this discussion, working in insurance, in my experience, has offered so many opportunities, and I know that it'll do the same for you. It extends far beyond a pay stub or a paycheck. And whether you're interested in working with serving your community, experiencing so many networking opportunities, or choosing a career path, that offers you real opportunities to grow and learn every day, an insurance career can really help you realize your goals and your dreams and what you want to reach. Insurance realistically is the backbone of one of the key backbones of our global economy. Without insurance, basically, business individuals would be at risk of losing everything they have worked for. So the final thing I want to leave with you is that in my vast experience, the insurance industry offers so many opportunities for everybody of any minority and every ethnic background. So that's my thoughts on that. Thanks.
And Simon, that's a really good starting place, actually, leading into my question for the audience as well, just to feed into the chat before I turn this back over to each of you. You mentioned that your perspective, Simon, is that there is inclusion and belonging within the insurance industry and a place for everyone. And I wanted to ask the audience, what does inclusion mean to you? What are some of the things that come to mind when we say that word? So I would love to sort of hear your thoughts in the chat, but as well ask each of you to share with me, your perspective. Eric, what does inclusion and belonging mean to you?
It's interesting. I remember a couple of years back, one of my colleagues said, what is D&I? What does this mean? And I was asking a friend, and she said, well, diversity is a fact. So people who say D&I isn't real, well, diversity is a fact. Like, you can't argue it. There's diversity in everything. And if you want to be a financial person or an insurance person, we want diversity in our portfolio. So we all understand what diversity is. And actually that's just, if you don't agree with diversity, you actually are ignoring reality. But I think the hard part is the inclusion part is a choice. So, to be inclusive, you actually have to work at it. You have to make a choice to be inclusive. And then at the same time, sometimes you have to make a choice to be included. So you sometimes have to go outside of your comfort zone to do something to broaden your own horizon. So I think when people say that, these are the 5 things you need to do to be inclusive, I think it's actually a lot harder than that. I think you've got to consciously always be thinking about, am I being inclusive? Because you have to choose to do it.
That's some really interesting perspective, Eric. I think, one of the things that's always rings true for me is that we need to be inclusive by design. So how we create and actually set up sort of our spaces, or even the ways that we engage with one another, or the things that we're looking to do. How do you put a lens to that enables people to take that step and to want to be included, and to feel like that they're welcome to be a part of the dialogue or conversation, or welcome to apply for that opportunity, whatever the case may be. Any other perspectives that the panel would like to share? Simon.
So, for me, inclusion and belonging is something that, I think for me personally, it means being accepted for who I am and what I can bring to the team. It means the opportunity part, in this case here in insurance, a workplace where everybody feels welcome and valued. It means, to Eric's point about being part of the community, fostering environments, free from any discrimination, where everybody feels comfortable expressing their beliefs and values, and those who identify with any minority groups, any sexual orientation, and of course those who do not. So it's very much a inclusive environment. And I believe the insurance industry is really promoting that today.
I have a quote that I really appreciate, Trevor, if you will let me.
Absolutely.
So this is actually a quote that I heard at another panel discussion that we had in-person event here in Montreal. It was encouraging women leadership in this insurance practice. So I will quote this. This is not original by any means. And this is a quote by Molly Watt, and she is an advocate for deaf-blind community, for technology to be accessible for this community. And what she said is accessibility is being able to get to the building. Diversity is getting invited to the table. Inclusion is having a voice at the table, and belonging is having your voice heard at the table. So I think I really enjoy this saying. And to Simon's point, I think everyone has that voice and it deserves to be heard. And this is how we're getting together, and we need to be mindful of that. We need to hear each other.
That's I think a really helpful sort of perspective. And I think, really ties into the other sort of thoughts being shared with the panel, that there's choices and decisions and ways that organizations behave, ways that individuals engage with one another, that I think, really influence how people feel included and feel like they belong. And, if we are conscious of each of the parameters that you're talking about, and take each aspect of idea in to heart, we can create the kinds of environments that I think we're striving for. And thank you for that. Angie, did you have a perspective on inclusion and belonging, what it means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything everyone else has said. What I would add to that is, when I think of some of the perception around idea work, is that it's the nice thing to do. It's good, but it's actually really good for business too. So the people that feel that strong sense of belonging and inclusion, they're the ones that are more likely to be engaged in the work that they do, and you're going to be able to retain them as a company. So there actually is a direct link to the business results when it comes to idea as well. And a quote that I wanted to share to kind of put it into perspective was, because what Eric said was that diversity is just a fact. So when we think of it this way, inclusion is a celebration of diversity put into action. So inclusion is that ongoing process. It's not a check mark, it's a process. And belonging is how people feel because of that process.
Yeah, it's not necessarily just a straight destination and we've arrived at inclusion. I like that. I think it's really important that we're consistently working towards those goals and opportunities. When we think about the insurance industry and its diversity story, the recent demographic research and sort of the studies that have been conducted show that in fact 62% of the industry in Canada are women. But when we break that down and take a look at sort of the C-suite, for example, we're at 36%, which, although leading in financial services, if you think about where that is, we probably have some work to do, right? In terms of creating that inclusive space within our senior leadership roles. But the story doesn't stay as great when we start to talk about representation. Although again, a leader in financial services with 16% identifying as a member of a visible minority, or to use that Census Canada language, but to identify as a person of color or as a part of the APPI community, I think, or API community rather, I think we're in a position where there's some work to do in terms of not necessarily saying we need to create positions and visibility all the time, but we need to create pathways that enable everyone to be able to take the step. Because when we look at our base, so entry-level roles, things are looking like they are, representative of a variety of different populations and a different variety of different identities within our workforce. Middle management starts to show, a little bit of the cracks. And I think certainly when we can all own that when we look at our senior leadership, that that the representation is perhaps not necessarily there in the same ways, but I think that there's the opportunity to get that way. If you look at, for example, the CIP graduating class, coming out of, the Insurance Institute programs, or even the college and university programs where insurance is embedded into the program, the individuals are coming through the door. So we've created the access to the building, but we may not have necessarily created all of the spaces that we need to yet. And I'm looking forward to discussing sort of different aspects of IDEA with each of you in sort of spotlight interviews, and we'll start those now. And Simon, we'll begin with you. And I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about your own lived experience in the insurance industry through an inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility lens, as well as indigenization. Get your perspective on what's changing and what needs to be done.
Excellent. Thank you, Trevor. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. As I mentioned earlier, I've been in the insurance industry over 30 years. So from my experience, diversity in the insurance industry today looks a lot different than when I first started. It was initially a slow progression over the years. There was some diversity in the 80s and 90s, and it wasn't very prevalent or celebrated or recognized like we do today. I did feel like a visible small minority, and sometimes I really didn't want to sort of bring my Indigenous background to the forefront. I just wanted to really just fit into the business world and not have any distractions or things that I've been looked at differently. So, but in my experience, I believe diversity has really gained traction and being championed by a number of industry campaigns, internal committees, people leaders. It's all been a really collective effort to bring this to the forefront. The good news, it's very noticeable. There's been an increase in diversity throughout the insurance industry. And you can see that in the many updates and best practices for acquiring new employees. It's very much stated in their guidelines of any ethnic background, any sexual orientation. It really doesn't matter. It's about who you are and what you can bring to the table. So it's continuing to grow and evolve, and we're on the right path, I believe, in the industry. But my message and my belief is we can't lose momentum now. We need to continue to support and get involved, much like we do today as people leaders, stay connected, with different community leaders, their members, and attract more candidates of diversity. Today, I don't feel like I'm seeking more equity or, acceptance. I really feel I'm accepted for who I am, what I do as a leader within the insurance industry, and really, I've had the pleasure of working with a number of insurance companies and organizations over the years to build so many wonderful connections and relationships. And for that, I'm very thankful. So that's basically my thoughts on that.
And Simon, I really wanted to just say like how awesome it is to hear that perspective, that you've seen real step change within the industry in recent years, and that you're continuing to see us sort of, move in the direction that we need to as an industry. I think, to Angie's point, just to do good business, but also to be the employers of choice and the destinations of choice for our talent, where, you're who you are, and you're adding value to that organization through that in an authentic and meaningful way. I did want to just visit, June is Indigenous History Month, and June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. Why are those types of observances important, and how can industry professionals, both from Indigenous communities and those who are not, best show solidarity and offer a sense of allyship to others in the workplace?
Wow, that's a really good question, Trevor. For me, these new events and days of recognizing Indigenous people is very personal and very meaningful. I grew up in Kamloops, BC, and I believe everybody's heard of the past experience with the residential schools there. I too experienced a lot of discrimination, and it pushed me to grow my educational background and to work hard to become a success in the business world. And I looked at it as my way because I was part of the 60s group, and I wanted to get back to my Aboriginal community and become a role model for people of Indigenous background, for my family, for my girls, Industry professionals, both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, can lead by example in promoting and living the core values of inclusion and diversity. And that's really by living it day to day and showing that. We can all get involved with celebrating all the various ethnic celebrations and days that we do today. They run throughout the year. Inclusion starts with you and how you treat others. I believe our workplaces are stronger and more fulfilling and successful when we include everybody in the team, and everybody, no matter what their race, creed, color, religious, sexual identity, ethnic origins, everybody's part of that family and the workplace that is we all have common goals and dreams and things that we want to accomplish. So that's my thoughts on that, Trevor.
And one of the things that sort of came through as you were speaking is, one, how important it is for us to remember, acknowledge, and have conversations to engage with one another, to understand and to celebrate, but also to recognize that that's a year-round thing. This isn't just happening today or this month. This is something that we can practice and make a part of our day-to-day throughout the year, and that there's an opportunity for leadership from both equity deserving groups as well as those who may not identify as such or even outwardly identify as such, but need to stand in solidarity together and work together towards this common sort of practice and process. I'm loving sort of that kickoff, that this is a journey, this isn't a destination. I wanted to take a moment and talk to you a little bit about mentorship, and you had surfaced it as a part of your giving back and your contribution, but also that you had benefited from it. What does that look like over the course of your career, to date, and how are you now giving back as a mentor to emerging professionals?
Yeah, you know what, Trevor, it's been something I've been really passionate about, something in terms of mentoring and teaching. I've been very fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with a number of really good mentors over the years myself, help me grow my knowledge, my experience, encouraged me to realize my full potential, and including working outside of my comfort zone. This really provided me the opportunity to experience the different roles I've held, and resulted in the various leadership roles where I've held over the years. I honestly believe I've always wanted to be a mentor and a teacher and help others in the insurance industry and along on their journey to give back. I've held various management roles with the responsibility of teaching and training others in the areas I've worked in. I've been very active in the industry in terms of, I mentioned being an instructor of CIP courses, getting involved directly with the Insurance Institute, promoting education. I've also hosted national webcasts where I've been asked to be a speaker. Most recently was with the Canadian Council of Aboriginal Business, and of course today with the Insurance Institute. I mean, those types of things, when people ask me, hey Simon, would you like to be involved? We'd like to, and I'll be the first to step up. For me, it's a never ending, it's something I really have a passion for it. And currently we have a mentorship program that we resurrected after COVID, and currently I'm mentoring 2 emerging professionals in our company's national mentorship program. It's been really awesome getting to know them, to help mentor them in their various chosen points of interest, whether it be underwriting, claims, and just their personal journeys and some of the things that they would wish that they would know today, and help them with growing their career. So for me, when they're asking for volunteers, I have no problem stepping up, and it's actually giving back to me a lot. I get a lot out of it. So that's
Simon, that's incredible that you've been able to give back in so many different ways within the industry. I think it highlights the opportunities that are available for professionals as they navigate their insurance career, to be able to contribute not only to help shape the future of the industry, but also to make a meaningful difference in the careers of those who are just getting started, or who are thinking about sort of their next steps towards leadership. I think that that's amazing. But also, I think it speaks to why this conversation is so important, because representation and being able to see yourself reflected in those kinds of mentorship programs and in those kinds of initiatives is huge. And to know that there are leaders, contributing to the conversation and also looking at it through an idea lens, I think is really bodes well for sort of the future of the industry. And it's great to hear about that from your vantage point. I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you, so they'll go very quickly. These are a little bit more fun. Some have some serious note, but favorite movie or TV show?
Shawshank Redemption.
Go to be kind to yourself and restore your energy.
Oh, team sports, no doubt about it. Playing soccer, hockey. I also love golf.
Fun fact about you.
I once ran a 10K race under 36 minutes. I was a lot younger back then, Trevor.
I don't think I've walked even 1K in 36 minutes recently. Best part of working in insurance?
Best part, just building the long-term relationships and friendships over the year, and the opportunity to mentor and guide others in their career journeys.
That's awesome. And a book you'd recommend we'd read, Simon?
Oh, for me, Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. I love fantasy novels. It pull me into a world where there's no social media.
And best piece of career advice you've ever received?
After graduating from McEwen University, I asked my program instructor what he thought would be a good career choice, because they really get to know the students very well, very close to that two-year program. And he told me to pick an area that really interests me and to work as hard as I could for the first 5 years and learn as much as I could. And then he said the opportunities would start to develop and open up for me. And then I could maybe start to look at diversifying and looking into other areas of interest. And that's exactly what I did. Started in personal lines and then moved into commercial and claims, and really then understood, all the whole gamuts. And for me, it's been great. So that was the best advice I ever had.
So I'm hearing sort of being that sponge and taking it all in, but also honing your craft, getting good at it, asking the right questions, getting curious, and then being able to take that expertise and apply it in a variety of contexts.
So you have to work hard for it. It's not going to be handed.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Simon. Simon, I can't thank you enough for that perspective, and certainly appreciate your candor, your sharing of your story, your lived experience within the industry, and what you hope for the future, and the ways that you're continuing to contribute to shaping talent and making sure that we're in good stead for the next gen of talent coming into the sector. Renee, I wanted to turn things over to you. You've had a really varied insurance career that's afforded you some, I think, unique perspective and vantage points. I wanted to hear from you, what words of wisdom do you have for those thinking about how to take stock and leverage, those transferable skills along the way to reach their insurance career goals?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor, for this great question. Actually, I have to admit, the mindset of a transferable skills wasn't something that I thought about when I was younger. I thought you need to start something and you need to learn it, and then with the knowledge you can only advance. So this is a mindset that I got stuck of. I need to focus on what I did instead of what I can do. A transferable skill is really something that actually allows me to focus more on what I could do, despite of what I did or not. There's always something new to a new role. So when you're starting just fresh, right out of college or university, you're starting your first job, and that's something new that you have never done before. But the thing is, you're building on. Trust yourself. You're always building on something. You're not starting from scratch. You had the life experience. You have the experience in terms of education or your other experiences that teaches you how you think, how you approach a problem, how are we solving problems, how are we adapting to a new environment, and how are we navigating through that new environment and learn things quickly, and how to build the the knowledge that's necessary for you to carry out your tasks. And then to Simon's point, and once you have that knowledge, there are so many areas, different areas of applications of the knowledge, of the skills. I think ultimately each and every role, you're facing a problem, you're solving that problem. And this skill, I think it can be universal. So I actually, I don't know whether it's by design or by choice, or it's just by chance, that I have changed my roles quite a bit, and I've experienced different aspects of the career. And the thing is, I do have the benefits of going through that interview process. They really made me reflect of what I did and what that actually transferred into the next role, what I can take advantage of, what crystallized of that experience into the next one. Not necessarily, and now at this stage, I realize that you advance in your career, not necessarily by doing it better. I'm not going into the next role by repeating what I do now, by repeating what I do better. You're going into the next role of a different level. So and so a lot of times those direct skills that you have experienced, the skill sets that you have experienced in terms of technical knowledge may not be necessarily needed for your next level. But then again, how you think, how your mindset is, and how you are approaching a problem, that's something that will stay with you for the rest of your career. And I do think this is how it actually shapes a different path of a career, right? So it's not just one career path, and transferable skills, it will allow you to a broader career path down the road.
100%. You know, I had one mentor describe it to me as, you know, focusing on your done list, not necessarily your what's in front of you. And meaning, if you leverage all of the things that you've learned along the way, you've navigated this massive series of problems or issues or opportunities or, you know, things that you've been able to achieve or accomplish. Even sometimes, you know, if you've had a bad day, you probably had 100 before and you navigated that and you came out on the other side okay. So odds are that's the way it's going to go this time. And I think each time that we have those reflective experiences and can take that skill set and start to apply it in different ways or in different situations, you're right, we become more nimble, we become more able to adapt to our environment and to be able to take on the kinds of opportunities that suit us at that point in time, not necessarily that we've been completing a series of steps to prepare for, but that we have been taking aspects from all areas of our lives to be able to apply within this particular career challenge or opportunity. So thank you for that. You know, one thing that really struck me too in our preparatory discussions, you know, and it really resonated and has been on repeat for me, you hit on this point about not wanting to feel like as if one needs to assimilate, but rather that to navigate in your insurance career path. Can you expand on that a little bit and maybe like why it's an important construct when we're talking about, you know, concepts of indigenization, inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the reason why I mentioned it in our preparatory conversation is because it was on repeat for me. So it struck me several times, and every time that I reflect on it, and I do want to share this with a broader community. Really, this is a comment from a coach of a leadership program that I participated in, and the topic was unconscious bias. So I think in the past years that we started talking more and more about unconscious bias, and there are more and more trainings. And if you search it on YouTube, you will see quite a bit of TED Talks. You can see quite a bit of talks on that. And what is unconscious bias is really, everyone has it. None of us is immune from it. It's a shortcut in our brain that we create of stereotyping and of trying to process things immediately and make snap decisions, because we are overwhelmed by information right now. So we typically go to the stereotyping, and so when we are seeing, so there are typical cliches saying, when you see a woman, do your mind go directly that she may not be as competent when you see another man? This is something that we are now realizing because of conversations that has taken place in the past years. And so this is really something that the coach has been mentioning, that you really need to be aware of your unconscious bias and be aware of your environment and how to navigate this. The thing is, assimilation, and to what degrees do you assimilate to, and to what standard do you assimilate to? It takes all of us to form that norm, right? Looking at the landscape of insurance, it transformed. I'm pretty sure we can all agree on this, that the landscape of insurance transformed in the past decades, 2 decades, even in the last 5 years. To your point, Trevor, that we're seeing more and more on the entry-level jobs of a representation of a diversity, and we start to see a little bit more on the representation moving up the ladder, right? And this didn't happen overnight. It took all of the people that before us to be themselves and to voice out what's needed and what they need to succeed in this. It's not just joining the club, but we need to play a part in forming what's standard in this club, right? And that takes every one of us to feel that authentic self and to be confident and comfortable in our own skins of getting into that role. But at the same time, we need to be aware of the environment. We need to know what's the headwind, what's the tailwind, and what's helping us, and how can I create that success for myself? How can I create my story? How can I create my narratives in this whole world?
Exactly. And I think, as you're speaking about that, the work of Dr. Hadiel Rodrigue comes to mind in terms of, she was looking at sort of different modes of unconscious bias, and she looked to orchestras, and she had this sort of moment of, in the 1970s, orchestras were talking about how can we have more female musicians, and how can we sort of have better representation. And one of the things that she learned as she was doing her research and talking to sort of seeing how, gender parity had sort of become a reality within that space, is that she realized, first they started with blind auditions. So everybody was turned around and they couldn't quite get there, and they couldn't figure out why. The reason, they needed to put down a carpet so you couldn't hear the high heels. And it was interesting to me as people were coming in for their audition, that simple act of creating a way to eliminate that unconscious bias and to just judge to create the meritocracy that we all talk about, wanting to have as our reality. We need to find out ways to be able to create that inclusive career path, and ways for people to be invited to compete for those opportunities and removing as much unconscious bias as we possibly can. I thought that was a really great point, and thanks so much for hitting on it. And really as well, talking about how much do we need to adapt or accommodate our environment, and how much does our environment actually need to be adapted to accommodate us as individuals and as people. And I think those are the important dialogues and conversations that we're having across the sector and across talent in general, I think, and at this point in time. I wanted to hit into our rapid fire and give you that opportunity as well. So your favorite movie or TV show?
It's a TV show. It's a Black Mirror on Netflix.
Nice. Go to be kind to yourself and restore your energy?
Oh, it's just enjoying life. Anything that's in any aspect of life, exploring whatever that's new to me.
Anything that comes your way, that's awesome. Fun fact?
Fun fact, I used to speak a little bit of Polish. Now my Polish can restrict to maybe a few words, greetings, polite words. No bad words, unfortunately.
Nice. And best part of working in insurance?
Vast opportunities. I think everyone touched on this. It's your choice to go wide or go deep.
Amazing. And a book you'd recommend we'd read?
I can't say that I'm in a position to recommend any book, but this is a book that I'm currently reading. It's How Women Rise. It's actually a part of a curriculum that I'm participating in a leadership program that my company had implemented. And at the same time, I want to mention there is a LinkedIn post recently that someone started a post that's asking for titles of books written by female authors. And to be honest, there are quite a bit of titles that I want to get to on that list.
Nice. And best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Do not be afraid of mistakes. And, to me, that says a lot, because it means that you need to get out of your comfort zone, try different things and try different areas. And as well, when you do make mistakes, how to manage that and how can you get support? How can you benefit from that experience?
Thanks so much, Renee, for sharing with us today. And I really appreciate your contribution to this conversation. Thank you for making time and putting forward such thoughtful reflection and opportunities for us to be able to learn and benefit from your voice of experience.
Thank you, Trevor. It's a great pleasure.
We have a poll that we'd like to run just to sort of benchmark where folks are at and within their organizations and their own journeys. So my organization is not yet having conversations, providing resources or implementing idea programming, beginning to have those conversations, resources, and implement idea programming, having those conversations, but don't yet have the data to support whether or not these initiatives are having impact, or seeing some change as a result of these initiatives being put into place. So please take a look and vote away, and then we'll move on to our next two spotlight interviews. Just wanted to get your perspectives on where things are at right now. Awesome. So we'll share those results and let you have a look. So you can see right now there is, some movement within the industry, and consistent with sort of what we've been hearing from our panelists so far in terms of their experiences with inclusion initiatives and idea initiatives and programming, and that hopefully we'll continue to see some really great change across the industry. So Eric, I wanted to spend some time with you and really ask, why is it important for people to be able to be their authentic selves in the workplace, whether it's in applying for new opportunities in their day-to-day work, or even just strategizing for the future within our own organizations? How do we create that, and what kind of environments are needed for where this is possible for everyone?
So I think it's very important to be able to be yourself at work, because otherwise, like, I'm quite a simple person. I don't have the ability to be two people at once. And if you had to maintain two personas, you think of all the energy that you're draining away. So people, I often, my mother will make fun of me, and she will say, like, you're not very, sometimes you don't see the train coming at you at work on the sort of workplace politics. And I said, because I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to strategize and backstab somebody, because that's not me. But sometimes you feel like you might have to take that persona. So I think it's really important to be able to be yourself, because then you can just go on and be the best at your job. You're not worrying about what you've said, how you've acted, how you've dressed, how people are going to perceive you. You are just you. So I think that is, you can just be so much better at work. But I'm also going to challenge that being authentic, because I am authentically a talker. So I can talk for, days. So I need to authentically recognize that me being authentic is me just to be me. But actually there's people who aren't like that. So I have to also, for me to be authentic, I have to make space for somebody else to be their own selves. And that might mean me stopping and saying, oh, Renee, I've not heard you contribute. Do you have any feedback? Or so it's constantly a little bit of a balance, because you need to be authentic. You also have to recognize that some people might not, that your normal might not fit well with them, and then be able to take that on board and understand it and adjust. And that's, I wrote that down from Renee, navigate. And I'm thinking, yeah, because I have to navigate myself in work, because I remember being taught at school, one of my teachers, because I was making some poor school choices in terms of friends, said, Eric, not everybody needs to be your friend, and you need to be friends with everybody. And I remember, now that still sticks with me, because she was very right. You cannot please everybody, but what you can do is you can be respectful, and you can be aware of it, and you can deal with it. So I think you need to be authentic, but you also then need to recognize how to accommodate others at the same time.
Fantastic. And thanks so much for sharing that perspective, Eric, because I think for me, it is important, and that's been one of the challenges, I think, when we're talking about, the workplace in particular, is that, it's a collection and a community of people. And so we want people to be able to be their whole self, but also celebrate and recognize everyone else within that community, and figure out how we can best work together, right? And what are some of the ways that we need to be able to yield space, create space, give opportunity for others to contribute in ways that are right for them, but also seize the opportunities that make sense for us, right? And to be able to steer our careers in those directions, and to also celebrate that we got there through either our skills, our expertise, or our knowledge, and being able to create and celebrate that amongst everyone who's a part of our workplace. I wanted to also talk to you a little bit about your own experiences within the insurance industry, and how the sector has evolved since you began your career in insurance. How do we keep moving from a place of awareness to concrete action?
So this is interesting, because I graduated from university probably 19 years ago, and I really, really wanted to work at Marsh. That was my dream job. And they had a fantastic graduate program, and I had done my CV. It'd been reviewed by my mom and dad, and I'd sent it off. But the Career Center at the University of Calgary had it as well. And pre-cell phone days, well, I was too cheap to have a cell phone. And they had phoned my parents at home to get a hold of me, the Career Center. So then they paged me. And I went in and thinking, what did I do? Was a spelling error? What did I do in my CV? And the lady said, Eric, I'm just concerned because on your CV, you have a lot of dancing stuff. You don't have any sports. And I said, well, yeah, I played soccer when I was, 6, and I was really bad at it. And she said, oh, I'm just really concerned about all the dancing things you have on this. And I owned it and just said, oh, is it the dancing, or is that you think that people are going to assume that I'm gay? And she turned bright red, and I said, I'm fine with that. And if they don't give me an interview, I'd rather not have that interview. So I'm gonna own this. But then, so that was 19 years ago. And then I fast forward to about 12 years ago, where in London, we created the LGBT insurance network. And even then, so we had a couple industry CEOs on a welcome panel. I got pulled aside at work and was told that there will be people who don't like this. And I remember thinking, I don't care. But and then one of our senior guys, he was the CEO of Catlin at the time, COO of Catlin. Some people were teasing him and asking if he was gay, because he was going to be a moderator of this event. And that was 12 years ago. But now I look at today, so the LGBT Insurance Network link, I can see Carrie on the call. He's involved with it. We're going to launch in Canada. We've got a chapter in the US. Last year, the LGBT Insurance Network raised £25,000 in a competition between 16 companies designing pride t-shirts. And I never thought that would happen. So much has changed. And it's not just about LGBT. There's the talk about ethnic inclusion, carers and families, disability and well-being. It is all encompassing, whereas before it was a lot about raising awareness. Now I think there's a much more focus on, okay, now that we can't be performative about this. We can't just change our logo. So, you know, we've changed our logo for you know, with George Floyd, everyone changed their logos to black. I'm not sure that made that much of a difference to anybody. So what are you actually doing as a company? And what I'm seeing in my context in the UK is companies are being held to account by their employees about things like that, saying, so you've done this great little celebration, what next? You know, why aren't we measuring D&I data? Why aren't we having more diverse recruitment panels? You know, why are we having no progression from minorities at senior levels? And people are becoming much more confident in airing those, I guess, those challenges. So CEOs used to, in my perspective, often show up and have a celebration. Now they'll talk about it, and they'll talk about it as a business issue, not a nice to have. It's we're getting pressure. What are we going to do when we need to do something different? Which I think is fantastic.
And I think that it's not just pressure. I think it's also a recognition that it's just how we're going to need to find talent right now.
Yeah.
If we don't start opening doors, we are going to continue to feel like that there is a talent shortage when there's actually a flood of individuals who are ready to step into leadership roles and need to be given that opportunity today, not yesterday, right?
And what I think is interesting is I see so many, and it was nice to hear Simon speak about mentoring, you know, the number of young people I've spoken to, and it has been a bit sad, who have joined and then left the industry.
Yeah.
And they just used to say to me, culture. And I said, what do you mean by culture? Like, culture can mean anything. Give me some. And it frankly took me about a year to sort of figure it out until one young lady said, it's entitlement. And I said, well, no, like, now explain that to me. And she said, you know, my boss feels like he's entitled to treat me like that. He's entitled to go for long lunches. He's entitled to leave at 5. He's entitled. And I was like, entitled to his bonus. And I thought, okay, I get it. I see, you know, I'm entitled to my promotion. Like and there isn't, we've all got this, we've earned it, right? We've done this, we should, but, and they said, I think we need to stop the word, you know, we need to stop entitlement. And that's what the culture part to me. And I think younger people are being more aware of that, and companies are either going to change or people are going to walk. And I think that, because you said now this is on CEOs' radars, and I am really excited now. And you think about the post-COVID world, everyone's trying to hire people, but for some reason there's nobody to hire. So it's my old boss said to me, I hope young people and people still working, because she's retired, take this moment by the horns and run with it, because you now are in control. You know, labor has got the power to drive the change. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
I think it absolutely is. And, you know, we've talked about some of the evolution that you've seen within the Pride celebration, but also moving to concrete action and the ways that Link has been able to contribute. I wanted just to also acknowledge, you know, the role of allyship and, you know, representation and it mattering within that community, across all communities, in fact. But I think particularly within the insurance business, I think we need to know that that who we are is not necessarily, it's a part of our identity and a part of our work as well. But it's, I think there's this opportunity to move beyond celebration and to move on to the fact that you know, there's leadership and folks who are able to, I think for me, it's about being authentic to who you are, but also enabling others to see that themselves reflected back. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is that the reflection back is what's key. And we're starting to see that within the industry. I think there's pride and also a desire to be a part of these celebrations, to be included, because it also means that you have the opportunity to give back to the sector. So Eric, let's do some rapid fire. So your favorite movie or TV show?
West Wing TV.
Go-to way to be kind to yourself or restore energy?
Actually going to the gym.
Nice. Fun fact?
I can't show them right now, but I have a cat that sleeps in a box on my desk that I'm stroking right now.
Absolutely. Best part of working in insurance?
I call it sort of cooperative, competitive collaboration. So, you know, brokers need insurers. Insurers often need each other to split the risk. So while it's very competitive, there's a lot of collaboration and relationships that can be made.
a book you'd recommend we'd read?
Oh, well, this is a book that I read 20 years ago called Straight Jobs, Gay Lives, that talks about Harvard MBAs, 100 of them that these researchers followed, and about the impact about being sort of out or authentic at work had on their careers.
Best piece of career advice you've ever received?
My dad told me this. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you want something at work, you need to use your words. Because otherwise you can't assume that someone at work is going to read your mind. So if you want a promotion, put your hand up.
Eric, thanks so much for being a part of the conversation today, telling a little bit of your own story. I am, you know, every time that I hear that you put dance on your resume and stuck to that, it makes the kid who hid out in the closet a little too long really proud to know that allies like you stepped forward and lived authentically, professionally right from the get-go, and gave opportunities for those of us to follow in that footstep and to follow your lead. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I also would like to spend some time with Angie and recognizing, you know, that you've had this really great vantage point as well by participating, you know, from a place of organizational development, and, you know, being a part of, you know, the HR and talent acquisition community for a large part of your career. Sometimes we think about all that is going on in the world and things that need to be done from an idea perspective. It can feel overwhelming. And I think particularly, I'm sure from your vantage point, you can hear managers and leaders talk about, how do I even start this conversation? Or how do I even start to implement the actions that we're talking about? Sometimes individuals might feel guilt. And how do we deal with that? How do we make sure that they're not feeling sort of paralyzed because they're not an expert or not wanting to say the wrong thing? This can result in silence or inaction. How do we handle that?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. I have the word inclusion in my job title, and even I feel these things sometimes. You know, truly, the starting place is just to commit to never allowing that fear, that worry, that guilt, that shame, or lack of knowledge be the reason that you don't speak up, or that you experience this inaction. Because when it comes to the idea space, it's ever evolving, ever changing. There's no such thing as an actual expert in this space. It really is a journey. So no, for anyone that might be feeling that way, that it just shows that you care about the lived experiences of others, and you recognize that you have some sort of privilege, okay? Because you do have a choice there. And I think, Trevor, what you're really describing through this question is the journey of allyship. And like I said, everything about this conversation today is about a journey. So allyship, it's about seeking to act in solidarity with equity deserving groups. So, you know, 3 tips might be: number 1, check your biases. If you have a brain, you have bias. So keep that in check. Number 2 is to treat it like you would any other thing that you don't know much about. You educate yourself. That is the key, is learn. There's tons of resources online, articles, blogs, webinars, podcasts, even a quick Google search will pull up so much information for you. And just please keep in mind, it's not the responsibility of equity deserving groups to use their emotional labor to educate you when you could be seeking out those resources yourself. And lastly, and possibly the most difficult part, is listen. Equity deserving groups, they don't need help. They need a space created where their voices are amplified and heard, where, you know, they can share their experiences and have them validated. So you as the ally need to do that active listening. It's an art. It'll take time to develop, because we live in a world where we're all competing to be heard. So it can be hard to stay quiet and listen. But I promise you that when you do that, that's when you will hear the things that you were missing before. Caveat though, you can follow all of that advice and still make mistakes, and that's okay. Okay, so just think of it as part of a learning process. Ask yourself what you can do better next time, and then keep trying, because the key to being an ally is just remember it's a process.
100%, right? Like, and you can also be a part of an equity deserving group, and sometimes need to listen and explore different aspects of even within that community, right? And voices that need to be heard or voices that need to be amplified. And I think so often, you know, Angie, you're so right in that we don't do enough of that listening piece, and we don't necessarily think about as well. If you are an active listener, you also figure out your entry point for the conversation and to take that opportunity, to take that space. So if we're all practicing those behaviors, I think we're going to see the step change continue, and recognize that as a journey. And I think that, as you say, making mistakes is okay as long as we learn from them. Exactly. There's a world of career possibility in the insurance industry, and you've seen that from a talent acquisition spot, but also, you know, I think in Definity right now, you know that there's a lot of really cool roles that are out there. What steps can early career professionals be taking to learn about, set their sights on, and work towards their goals in the industry?
Yeah, great question. When it comes to those steps, I mean, the starting point would really be to know where you are right now and know that there are several directions that you can go in. So really take the time to learn more about what career paths exist in the industry. And I know it's easier said than done, I get that. So, you know, touching on some stuff that Simon said around mentorship, you know, finding yourself a mentor in the industry, someone who maybe has experience in the area of insurance that you are interested in, as, you know, your next step or your final step, whatever it might look like. And know that that can look different from person to person. So it's really about making it valuable for you. So be intentional about who you might be considering, and set clear objectives with them. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you're setting both short-term and long-term goals. And they need to be SMART, right? The specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. They need to be all of those things, because if you don't have these considerations in your goal setting, you aren't setting yourself up for success. But know that no matter what, once you're here in the industry, you will find a place that offers progression and possibilities. It doesn't need to be, and likely won't be, a linear progression. You know, we've heard from others in the group today, their career isn't this way, it's kind of this way. Sometimes you need to sidestep. There's so many possibilities. So really a starting point, explore multiple possibilities and be open-minded. And think about what feels right for you at each step of your career.
And Angie, I think you also gave us some really good tips in both of your answers, you know, around, you know, things that you're seeing that are working, things that are actually, you know, moving the needle in the right direction, that are enabling people to take career agency. We do have agency over our career. It's not being done to us, but also enabling organizations and future leaders to sort of think about, you know, how can I create this space and create the opportunities for folks to be able to step into those roles. Is there anything else that you think that we can be doing right now that just to simply do better?
As an industry, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, there's lots. And you can ask me this question 10 years later, and I probably will still have more to say about what we can do better. You know, from a talent development perspective, Trevor, you touched on it, around the face of who works in insurance. It has changed, but there's still a ways to go. So, you know, from a talent development perspective, looking at people that are at the leadership level, especially in C-suite, and changing the face of who that looks like. It's true in the industry, and it's true at the company that I work for, that the number of people that identify as female actually exceed the number that identify as male. We don't have other data points that we can report on quite yet. We're working on that. But as you work your way up the ladder, that number decreases for who identifies as female. So we need there's work to do there. But beyond the workplace, even when it comes to our customers, you know, how are we ensuring that we're taking into account gender diversity when creating policies and creating space for non-binary customers, or even how we do business? There's work to be done with bias in predictive modeling, which relies heavily on artificial intelligence, because that AI picks up patterns and then reinforces them, which creates a system that could become inherently biased. This is some of the stuff that we're working on, actually. That's how I know that there is even an opportunity there. And just in terms of products, insurance can be a catalyst for so many things. So, just thinking at a deeper level on what products can we design so that they lead to more positive outcomes in terms of idea and provide options for a more equitable society. So it will take time. There's lots of work to do, but certainly looking back, we've come a very long way too.
And I think that we started outlining that it's a journey, and we'll close that it is a journey, right? Absolutely. And know that it's great to know that we're all on it together, and that we're clearly seeing some changes and some moving in the right direction. So just some rapid fire to close here. So some favorite movie or TV show?
This changes week to week due to binge watching habits. So this week's favorite is The Boys.
Awesome. Go-to way to be kind to yourself and restore your energy?
Distraction-free time with my 2 daughters.
Lovely. Fun fact?
I love to dance and was part of a hip hop dance crew all throughout university at the University of Waterloo.
Amazing. I want to know more, but best part of working in insurance?
Working in an industry that centers around protecting the assets that people care about the most, and knowing that we're helping people and making them feel protected.
A book you'd recommend we read?
Yeah, so in honor of Pride Month, I'm currently reading Alphabet Soup by Michael Bach. So I recommend that you do that too.
Nice. And best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Yes, always say yes to the opportunities that scare you. If you think it's scary, it means it's a chance to grow.
Amazing. I want to ask our audience right now, in your chat, type in one word, but don't hit enter yet, to describe how you're feeling leaving the session today. Some of the things that are on your mind, and I'll have our panelists as well put in their final thoughts. So leave that in the chat, just the one word about how you're feeling as you're leaving the session today, and some of the things that you're taking away with you. For our panelists, in terms of your final thought, if you had one piece of advice for your early career self, what would it be? Angie, we'll start with you.
Okay. It's okay to not have your entire career path figured out, but you do need to tap into your inner energy. It is your ownership to take. So take that passion, put it into measurable, attainable goals, and stay focused and work hard.
Awesome. Focus on that done list. Simon.
Sorry, mute. Much like Angie, yeah, really getting out of my comfort zone. I think that's one thing that I struggled with at the very beginning. And once I got past that barrier, just opening myself up to, another way of doing things, ideas, accepting who I am, and really also to Angie's point, just taking on those challenges that maybe scared the heck out of me, and take those on. So I think that's the advice I would give myself.
Eric.
My new early career advice would probably to have been more patient. Honestly, be a bit more patient.
Yeah. Good advice. Renee.
Put your hands up more.
Yeah, and say yes to those opportunities. I love that in our full circle, we've echoed, we've given some, I think, really thoughtful modes of encouragement, as well as modes of thinking about how, those who are just embarking on their insurance career, who might be joining our conversation today, are thinking about and how they might be able to navigate towards the goals that they might be setting for themselves. And I am so thrilled that we were able to have this conversation today, to be able to authentically engage with one another, to also be able to learn from and benefit from each other's experience, to create space for each of you to share your perspectives and thoughts with the audience today. And would invite our audience now just to hit enter into the chat, and so that we can see how you're feeling, and as well to share any final comments. A huge thank you to the Insurance Institute of Canada for putting on this session and for inviting early career talent to participate. We think it's important that these conversations are happening so that we can see where we've been, where we are now, and the journey that we're continuing to have to create an inclusive reality for all within Canada's property and insurance industry. So thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the dawn of summer wherever you are in the country, and look forward to continuing to engage with all of you at future events.